What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So, kind of wrote out my stories from yesterday for today, but of course, some more breaking news had to happen over the night and a bit this morning. So, want to get through that more quickly and right up front because I'm pretty sure that's what you're all are here for, and I'm pretty sure it's in the title of the video as well. Yes, sadly, Bronny James, who's at USC right now, he was practicing, I believe it was yesterday, with the team, or maybe he was by himself at the facility, and apparently he did suffer a cardiac arrest. Luckily, there were some members there to be able to help him out on the staff, and luckily they were able to get him to the hospital quick enough, and everything looks good. He's out of the ICU. He's in a stable condition as well. It is obviously freaky when you hear like these great athletes go through like something like cardiac arrest. It obviously could be something, part of your family, as they call it, but it could also be something else. So I don't want to get into that because this video will get flagged as well. So if you know, you know. But yeah, either way, it is tough. Obviously, don't want to talk crap on him because I'm pretty sure there are those dumbasses out there on the internet that will be doing that, whether it's a chance now to talk crap about him or LeBron James as well. But either way, if it was your child, you would still do the same, and hopefully nobody talks crap on them as well. But either way, definitely having him in my thoughts and prayers and hoping out for the best outcome for him as well. Like I said, looks like he's in stable condition. Everything looks copacetic, but yeah, overall, it's a pretty weird thing. Because even like last year, who was it? Vince Iwuchukwu, the freshman coming in, he actually had his heart stop and everything like that during practice, and luckily the team members were able to get him up and going and all that stuff. So yeah, very scary stuff for these young guys, these young athletes, and yeah, I guess that's all I had to say about that. Then an ex-USC defensive player, Uchenna Nwosu, recently signed a pretty big extension with the Seahawks. I think he signed there last season once he left the Chargers, but he did sign a 3-year extension worth up to $59 million, which is nice, and $32 million guaranteed as well for him as of right now. So that's a pretty big contract. Obviously, the Chargers weren't willing to pay him even last year for a 1-year deal or something like that, but yeah, they let him go, and now he played very well even last year for Seattle, and of course got rewarded with this nice extension on his contract. And yeah, overall, he definitely is well deserved. Was one of my favorite players at USC at the time, and I was always super excited that he got drafted by the Chargers in the second round. And yeah, sad to see him go, but definitely very happy for his success in this later NFL future. So congrats to Uchenna Nwosu. So yes, this last Friday, it was pretty much the Pac-12's media day for all this stuff, to be able to showcase their talent and the teams and the players and coaches, all that stuff. Be able to talk about the conference and pretty much avoid all the questions about both USC and UCLA eventually leaving the conference after this season to join the Big Ten. But yeah, overall, it was kind of like okay. Just got to hear some stuff from like Caleb Williams and Mason Cobb, the new transfer linebacker for USC, and the head coach Lincoln Riley was able to hear some of his interviews as well. But overall, it was pretty like not too crazy as far as news that came out. I guess the most newsworthy thing is that the commissioner didn't say where they're going to be having their conference play, like which streaming service or channel and all that update. He said they kind of do have it, but he didn't want to release the news on their media day to take away from the players and teams, even though this would help benefit the players and teams and leave a lot less cloudiness with your conference. But I don't know, it's a pretty dumb statement by him. But either way, yes, a lot of good stuff, because the Pac-12 media ended up picking USC as the number one team. And usually when they do the preseason number one, who they think is going to win the conference, that team pretty much always ends up in that final conference game and usually ends up winning the title. Usually, I think in 2017 when USC was picked number one, if I'm not mistaken, they did end up winning that as well against Stanford that season. So either way, it's some nice, good mojo heading into the season for them. Obviously, it'll be tough because you have to play one of those opponents you just defeated on your crazy stretch towards the end of the season. But sure to help them out in the college football Final Four and all that stuff and standings. But yes, Caleb Williams did mention that, yes, that's his pretty much his main goal is to make it to the college football final. I know everybody forgets that. Everybody think it's a down year for USC because they lost 3 games, but they were still 1 game away from making that Final Four, in my opinion. I think they would have gotten over TCU and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy that they were just 1 game away, and obviously it's built up a fire in Caleb, and he definitely wants to prove that. I'm pretty sure he would rather prefer to be in the Final Four and have a chance to win the national championship compared to having another Heisman back-to-back so he could join, who was it, like Archie Griffin of Ohio State who did it at that time. But either way, I still think it's going to be a successful season for him, and definitely looking forward to that later this fall, or actually next month in late August. So yes, definitely looking forward to that. And yes, ex-USC player Jordan Addison was the other day cited for going like 140 something plus miles in a 50-mile area, and everyone was kind of talking crap on him. Even I was about to talk crap on him just because it's like, obviously an ex-Raider did that a few years back, Henry Ruggs, and yeah, he was intoxicated while he did it, all this stuff, and ran over and killed somebody at the time. That's why he's still, I think he's going to be in jail, but I recently saw a picture of him hanging out with his family out and about, which is kind of weird. But yeah, overall, it's just bad when you get this money. And he even talked about during the draft process that he does love fast cars, and that's probably the first thing he's going to buy is a fast car, which is, I guess he has a need for speed. But a day or two later, they did find out that he was cited for going that speed because he was in a medical emergency for his pet, his dog, who had some type of medical emergency. He was trying to get them to the place as soon as possible, which you can kind of understand. Yeah, I think it would be crazier if he was doing it more in a residential area, because 50 miles an hour is not residential, if I'm not mistaken, because that's like usually 25 to 30. But yeah, still, that is pretty reckless driving. And yeah, at least it wasn't like a dumb thing, like he was just being dumb, young and dumb and having fun. But yeah, overall, I guess you can, it's like a little slap on the wrist and not going to get any suspended games because he's a rookie. But either way, I think it's a nice lesson learned, and it's just a good thing that he cares about his pets, in my opinion. So that's all I got to say about that. The House of Victory recently had a couple of signings. They had the defensive end, Tyrone Taleni, and then also the running back, the freshman running back, Quentin Joyner, recently signed up the past couple of days, which is pretty cool. Like I said, obviously, House of Victory is for all sports, but they're going to most likely get the football players. And, you know, it's another good thing to have these younger guys on this program, because then that means they're most likely going to stay more than 1 year. And that little bit of extra money is going to help them out, I believe. So that's what I'm looking at this as. So nice couple of good signings for USC's House of Victory. And then, yes, PFF recently did a top ranking of the offensive line in the offensive lines in the country, and USC was ranked number 5th, I believe, in the top 10, which is really nice. But when you look at another companies, which is 247, I believe they didn't even have USC ranked in the top 10 at all. They had like a couple other schools like Texas or West Virginia, Utah, that weren't even on PFF. And PFF, I've always said I'm up and down with them because they use more of the analytics, which is what pretty much everybody else does, but they do kind of favor USC a bit more in those analytics, even though USC doesn't have always that much success in the end. But it is kind of weird that they're not even top 10 overall. If you're like closer to number 10, I can understand it, 247, but yeah, there's definitely a wide range of where they're being placed in their overall offensive line group. So I wanted to kind of figure out and get this news out now so that once the season does start, because I think they have a really good offensive line, in my opinion, with a lot of good transfers and guys who have stayed. So I think they're going to be very productive, and definitely looking forward to it. So On3 recently put out a post saying this top 10 teams who have been ranked number 1 in the AP poll, and it goes back so many freaking years, so I guess it's not just most recently biased. But yes, even USC did make it at number 5. I think they've had 91 times in that, playing a game at least in that number 1 spot, which is cool, behind Notre Dame by a couple spots, which sucks, but overall it's still pretty nice. I think the last time they were playing a game as the number 1 overall team in the country was 2012 as well, which is not surprising because that was the Matt Barkley season also. So yeah, it's been a while, been over a decade since they've played a game as number 1, but hoping they do end up having some success soon at some point. And then yes, there are a couple of recent guys of the 2024 class that are still considering USC or want to be considered and have more of a communication with USC. So Zion Grady recently released a top 10. I'm sorry, he's actually the class of 2025. Yeah, so he released a top 10, and he has USC in there, and then another 2025 top 50 overall defensive lineman Trent Wilson said he wanted more communication with USC, or is going to be having that, and most likely good. I don't know if he has received the offer or not, but yeah, the 2025 class does look pretty good and promising with the type of guys they're offering and looking at, because even today too, another top tight end in the class of 2025 recently did say that he has USC in his top 9, and his name is Jack Vandorselaer. Hopefully I'm saying that correct, but yeah, he's out of the state of Texas as well. On his Twitter, he says he's the number 1 tight end in the state of Texas. So either way, hoping that USC does end up getting some of these guys, and it's looking good at least for the future of their recruiting in the 2025 class. And yes, On3 has been recently updating their rankings because other teams like Tennessee or Clemson, all that stuff, have kind of been moving up and down here and there. Michigan and Notre Dame are kind of moving up too in that top 10, but recently it has looked like USC did drop down to the number 8 spot overall, so it's not that horrible. They haven't been able to get some of these guys recently, so that's kind of like why they've dipped down a little bit. Luckily, some of those teams like a Notre Dame, who did steal one of those guys the other day, did not jump over them, so USC does still have a chance when they go after guys like Jalen Harvey and all those other guys I mentioned in the last video that they're still looking at in this class. And there are also guys who are going to be waiting to see what USC's team and especially their defense looks like, and there's a lot of still talented defensive players out there that USC could go after and look at. So either way, it's still looking like a positive 2024 recruiting class, in my opinion, for USC. But yes, as mentioning some of those other players, Taylor Tatum did commit to Oklahoma the other day, the number 1 running back in the country, so that does suck. Mike Matthews was another kind of luxury pick, kind of like how Tatum was, because you don't really need a top running back or a receiver, but it would have been nice to add another talented player at those positions. But yes, Mike Matthews did choose Tennessee over the Trojans. And then this last Sunday, the linebacker from SoCal out here, Kingston Viliamo-Asa, did choose Notre Dame over USC, and his was kind of weird. I did hear a quote after that. He said he didn't see himself or picture himself playing or at Notre Dame, but he said that's the reason why he chose it, because it made him feel uncomfortable. And I kind of that's a weird statement, because you would want to go to the best situation you think for yourself. I think it was more of him choosing USC because he is very religious, him and his family. And obviously, between USC, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, the more religious school is going to be Notre Dame. So either way, I still think that was more the reason why he picked it, and not like this whole I feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to go after that and try to challenge myself, which still, you can say that, but it's still kind of weird that you say that about a team you're picking, your next 3 to 4 years to go to college to and play. So either way, it's kind of weird. But USC did mention that they're still going to try to go after a lot of these guys, especially guys like Kingston Viliamo-Asa, and then another guy who's his teammate out there at St. John Bosco, Jordan Lockhart, who did commit to Texas A&M a few months back because he's going there with his brother, who's already on the team. But yeah, they're still going to monitor those situations to see if they can try to sway them to sign with USC later this year. But a couple other guys like that are mentioning in couple of good linebackers actually. Chris Cole, who's recently like a number 53 overall linebacker. They're going to be looking at him in this 2024 class, and another local linebacker from Carlsbad. He's a 3-star linebacker, Luke Farrelly. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. He did commit to Arizona a while back, but recently flipped to Stanford. So it was a good get for Stanford. So maybe USC can flip him again to be able to come to their school, and he's obviously going to be playing closer down here to where he lives. But either way, it's a couple of options later in the 2024 class that USC can go after, and there's still, like I said, a lot of talent out there. So USC is swinging for the fences, yes, but they're still going to get a couple singles and doubles here later in the process, in my opinion. So over the weekend, there was some more growing speculation and rumors that Christian Wood is going to be signing with the Lakers as that one of the final roster spots, and accepting that mid-level deal. But I don't know. I think he still believes he could get traded or get a little bit more money. I know the Lakers aren't going to trade someone like Jared Vanderbilt to Dallas for him and all this stuff in a sign-and trade. So I think he's just better off signing with a contender like the Lakers. But you just never know. And even Rudy Gay was recently released after he was kind of traded around the past couple of weeks, and he's another guy who all the contenders are kind of vying for as well, even the Lakers as well too. So you never know. It could end up being one of those two guys. It could be a guy we're not really talking about here in Bismack Biyombo as well to fill up that center position. But we'll just have to wait and see about that. Then PFF recently did like their top 50 overall players according to them. And of course the highest Charger was Derwin James at number 17, and he was like the number 1 safety at that time on that list. So that's pretty cool for him, still getting the respect at least around the league. And then Justin Herbert was also on the list. He was at number 35. I think he was like the 4th ranked quarterback on the list. So either way, it was still a nice area for him. I think just because of that injury last year and his numbers didn't look as good as the years prior, it's kind of like why he went down a bit. But as long as he's healthy and the guys around him are healthy, and they definitely have some weapons now, they especially the way they drafted and signed some players, and he should be fine and throw up some good numbers. But either way, it's still going to be a pretty interesting season for them, depending what happens on the defensive side and who else they sign and how it ends up going for them as well. So we'll see. So there's some more growing news and rumors that Anthony Davis is maybe going to sign an extension on his deal with the Lakers sometime before training camp, which happens pretty soon, sometime in late August, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be happening pretty soon. Maybe that could be some type of breaking news. I don't know how long it's going to be. It might be as long as LeBron James's contract is, so he could time it up with that, or he's just going to say, give me all the money you can and I could be here for a while. But yeah, when I saw this news, I wasn't as excited as maybe I should be with the talent as of Anthony Davis wanting to re-sign with your team and an extension. But I don't know, we'll have to see, because at times he looks like a top 5 player, and then he gets hurt, and then looks like barely a top 20 player. So I don't know, and maybe it can help him out if they work out a nice deal to be able to deal him away in the near future at some point. But either way, have to wait for that, I guess. And then it comes to a little bit of miscellaneous news. Yes, of course, in the great battle of Oppenheimer versus Barbie last week, I was able to convince my girlfriend to go watch Oppenheimer, a 3-hour movie. Didn't really go to IMAX, went into that, what's it called? Edwards has like the RPX, which is kind of like their version of that. It was very loud at times, so that was pretty cool as well. But it's not an action flick, it's more of like a historical type of drama, but it moves at a very quick pace even at 3 hours. And like I said on Twitter, one of the better, more exhilarating parts of the movie is actually the score that actually keeps you engaged throughout the whole entire film, which is pretty cool. But overall, I did like it. Thought it was great. I would like to go see it again, but I don't know if I want to spend like another 3+ hours in a movie theater. But either way, yeah, I definitely would say go out and check it out if you're interested. Definitely a very good movie and worth your time. But Christopher Nolan has been in the news lately. There was a nice article that was put out about him that before Martin Scorsese did The Aviator, which is a movie about Howard Hughes that he did with Leonardo DiCaprio and Cate Blanchett, all those people, in like the early 2000s, he was actually working on a project and writing a script about Howard Hughes, and he actually wanted Jim Carrey at the time to play Howard Hughes, which would have been pretty interesting as well, because maybe at the time people would have thought it was weird, but obviously Jim Carrey has done very well in his more dramatic and serious roles, so that would have been a pretty cool thing to see. But once he saw that Scorsese was doing it and got it done more quickly, then he kind of just threw the project away and thought it was too similar. But he did say he learned from writing that script that he was able to do a more historical piece and script about a real life person, which is kind of made it a lot easier to be able to write the script for Oppenheimer, which he was basically adapting a book that he read, Prometheus something, that it's kind of based on, but not really. But yeah, he basically got all his main storyline from that, and he said it was a lot easier to write the script and all that stuff because of that for Oppenheimer. And yeah, people are gonna say this. Obviously, this isn't his most fun movie to me. Obviously, it's either Inception or Tenet, in my opinion. But a lot of people are he's probably gonna win the Best Director for Oppenheimer, in my opinion. It's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio winning Best Actor for The Revenant, even though I don't think he really deserved it for The Revenant. Deserved the nomination, but not the win. I think he should have got it last year, the last year before that, which was The Wolf of Wall Street. That's just my opinion. But yeah, either way, definitely a very interesting movie overall. I didn't think I was going to be able to... I usually can't get through talky 3-hour plus movies, but for some reason, the way the editing... I usually don't like kind of like quick cuts to an editing, but it kind of keeps you on the edge and keeps you more focused actually when it's this stuff compared to like action and all the shaky camera BS, all the crap that the directors do nowadays. But yes, a very great movie in Oppenheimer. Very great performances. Cillian Murphy, obviously Robert Downey Jr. There's so many actors. Don't look at the IMDb because you want to be surprised by as many actors that somehow he got in this film. I think there's so many Academy awarded, whether it's nominees or actually people that won in this movie that you don't even know that are in trailers or on the poster. But yeah, I think that was kind of shocking at first. So that's why I feel like I have to watch it again, because it's like, oh wow, he got this person, he got that person. So kind of have to go through it again and really dive into the story and the film itself. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that at some point in the near future. So yeah, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.